Welcome to this week's edition of In the Clubhouse with EMD. I'm Andy Kirikides, joined with my wonderful co-host, Keith Glasser. How we doing?
Great. How are you?
Good. We're about 20 or so games into the college baseball season, and this is the time of year where a lot of kids are experiencing what we call the freshman blues. And we want to take a few minutes to talk about the realities of being a freshman in college baseball, particularly today's college baseball with a lot of older guys, a lot of stronger guys. And I think sometimes it's tough on freshmen because it's the first time that you've ever gone anywhere it's the first time in a long time where you're on a team where there's a really, really good chance that you are not the best at your position. And it's the first time that you've probably been asked to not play every day. In some cases, you may not be playing at all. Um, and it's that time of year where guys start to question whether they're either good enough or they start pointing fingers or they start making excuses as to why they're not playing. And I think it's important to kind of level set. If we've got any college guys listening out there or parents of freshmen, um, kind of level set in this topic. So I'm gonna kick it over to you to get us started, and we'll talk this one out for a few minutes.
Yeah, this is the tough part of the season, right? Like you're about to start conference play. We're out of non-conference play. Probably got a little bit of burn here and there to kind of see where you're at, and your results may not be what you thought they were or what they should be, and you might not be getting a ton of starts conference wise. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you shut it down and you get upset and you can be mad that you're not playing, but you got to figure out how you can work yourself into the lineup or work yourself in there defensively to get some burn. And when you do get in there, you have to produce, right? Like, I think one of the hardest things for younger guys to kind of understand when they get into the college game is that, like, you have an opportunity every single day, whether it's going to be at practice or whether it's in a game. Or pregame BP, all of that stuff. So you have to be able to take all those things seriously and show up and show out in all of those situations, because you don't have a whole hell of a lot of equity built up to be able to kind of, not be very good for a little bit and kind of go through the motions and still find yourself playing a little bit. You have to be able to show up at practice every day and do really well and be able to do the things that you need to do, in pregame work, all of that stuff. That will be, the more you show up and do really well there, the more times that the coach is going to be like, hey, you know what? He's been working his tail off, and we need to make a little bit of a change here. Like, let's see what the kid can do. But when you get that opportunity, you need to be able to seize that opportunity as well. I think sometimes, you get that opportunity and you don't do well, and then it's like, well, I'm not going to play for another 4 days. How can I get going? And that's where you're back into your routine of practice and what you got to do there in order to, get another opportunity. But I think one of the things that younger kids really need to understand when they get into college, and then, I think the quicker you can learn it, is that you have those opportunities daily in order to work yourself into a lineup. And you can sit and complain about it and say that, I just don't practice well, and it's, it's this and it's that, and there's these excuses, but like you're being graded out every day. And if you can't bring the energy, if you keep messing up the same thing in practice all the time, like, it's going to be hard for the coach to justify writing your name on the lineup card if, you can't field your position during BP or fungos or whatever it is you're doing defensively, or you still don't know where you're supposed to be on first and thirds and bunties and double cuts. It's gonna be hard to put you in there. And same thing, if you're really struggling offensively and you can't hit, like, it's gonna be tough to write you in there. So it's figuring out and understanding that, like, every day is going to be an opportunity for you to be able to do that. And then when you get in there, hey, this is my opportunity. I got to make this work, and find some success and find those little things that you can build on in order to start building up. You like to say this all the time, like, stack good things on top of each other, and start small and start stacking those things on top of each other. And next thing you know, you can find a little bit more success there. But I think the biggest thing from my experience in coaching and watching it and writing lineup cards and all that stuff is like, and having these conversations with freshmen right around this time of year and even some sophomores, but like the opportunity is there every day. It's not just game day stuff or in game 9 inning stuff. It's literally there every single day for you to be able to go get it. And the more you show up and do that, the higher your percentage of having more opportunities to actually play in game are going to happen.
Yeah, incredibly well said. I think it's also important to understand that coaches aren't trying to screw anybody. And like this is the thing that it's the biggest difference between high school baseball politics and college baseball is that college coaches don't take advice or play favorites because of who a kid is or what their parents do. Like they need to win baseball games. Like we've talked about this a ton, but when it gets close to you, people lose sight of this. Like I know people who are very much baseball guys who can't wrap their head around why somebody's not playing and think it's personal. And it's not. It's never personal. There's usually two reasons kids don't play. Either one, you're not ready, and it's pretty clear to the coaching staff that you're not ready, or the guy in front of you is just better right now, and you need to bide your time, and that coach is going to find opportunities to get you in the game, whether it's pinch hit at bats, maybe you get a spot start midweek. Like if you're a part of the plan, coaches are going to try to find spots for you. But sometimes, like if you're in a really good program, right, with a bunch of talented kids and they're playing for something, coaches don't have time to give you a whole weekend of at bats to feel comfortable. Like we got to win. And if I've got, a future draft pick or a guy who's proven himself in big spots already, like I have no reason to give an unproven kid that opportunity until I have to. Right. And most coaches don't want to throw freshmen into big spots early because if you fail, it can become really hard to bounce back from. So a lot of times you pick your spots with freshmen, specifically arms. Like it takes a unique kid to be a weekend starter or a high leverage bullpen guy as a freshman because the pressures of doing it are very, very different than showing up to your high school field and striking out a bunch of 14-year-olds. Like it's a very different situation. And you got to earn that trust. And that's another part of it from a freshman perspective. Like you need to earn the trust of your coach that you know how to go about your business. Um, the other thing I want to touch on before we, kind of end this, our Monday short is I think this is even more important for guys to understand with the transfer portal now being a thing is that just because you don't play as a freshman a ton or you don't play as much as you think you should or as much as you want to, right? Nobody, if you don't start every game, nobody played as much as they wanted to, right? Like everybody wants to start every single game. If you don't want that, then you probably shouldn't be playing college baseball anyways. But just because you don't get what you want doesn't mean that that's not the right place for you. And sometimes you need to bide your time. Sometimes you need to get acclimated. Sometimes you need to get stronger. Sometimes you need to learn how to throw more strikes. Like whatever it is, stepping in as a freshman at any level of college baseball and being really successful is those kids are the outliers. They are not the norm. And I implore anybody who is a freshman this year that you really take a look in the mirror and you take a look at your program and you take a look at the people around you. And if you're going to leave, make it something that that's not the right place for you. Not that it's just not the place that you didn't get what you wanted right away. Right? Because the satisfaction of development doesn't come by things getting handed to you. It takes time and you have to work for it. And I've watched guys make huge jumps, and I know you have too, from struggling freshmen who shows signs of being a pretty good player but can't put it together consistently to sophomore who is an everyday guy to junior who ends up getting drafted. I've watched that story play out pretty much 12 times at William and Mary. It was all the same. Really good days as a freshman and real horseshit days as a freshman. And then it gets a little bit cleaner. It gets a little bit more consistent. And then it all comes together. And The other thing to consider if the transfer portal is something that you're going to consider is wherever you go, you still have to prove yourself. You still have to be good enough. And just because you go somewhere else doesn't mean that you're getting that opportunity or you're getting any more of an opportunity. So struggles as a freshman are normal. The kids who don't point fingers, the kids who show up every day, to your point, they practice hard. They try to get better. They're dialed into the process of preparation. They're being a really good teammate and they take advantage of the opportunities to get those kids. It'll work out for them. But if you're sitting there pointing fingers and you're blaming everybody else, it's going to be tough to climb out of that hole. And I think that that's just, I mean, we got 26 years of experience doing it. I've never dealt with a kid that was a finger pointer who had ended up working out really well until they decided that they were going to take some accountability. So,
Yeah, I think the last thing I'll add is like, who are you when no one's watching? Like, what are you doing? Are you doing more, or are you just showing up to practice and hoping that the 15 swings you're going to get in VP is going to be enough to make you better and change the minds of the coaches to put you in the game? You know, do a little bit more on your own. Be there early. Get some early hitting in. Stay a little bit late. Hit a little bit later. You stay around and do some extra stuff. Generally speaking, there's going to be a decent amount of guys on most good, really good teams that do some extra stuff. The likelihood of the better players being the ones that are putting in extra work are pretty high. So if you see a bunch of good guys putting in some work, attach yourself to them. Eventually, it'll start to pay dividends for you.
good addition there to close this one out. Yeah, hang in there. It's not supposed to be easy. College baseball is hard. And I think that's really good advice. Like, go hang out with the guys that are playing a lot and are being successful because eventually you'll be one of those guys. Thank you for listening. We'll check in next week. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for listening this week. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and smash that like button for us. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at EMD Baseball. If you want to find out what me and Keith do to help families and players navigate the recruiting process, go ahead and check us out on emdbaseball.com. Take a few minutes to check out our new online academy. I promise you'll get some good information out of that. Thanks again for listening. Check in with you next week.